So, ladies and gentlemen, drive-in fare in northern New Brunswick back in the day had, just like the movie, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Well, I don't know where this movie ended up, either in the good or the bad category, but it was downright ugly. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about a movie, and this is not a speech impediment. The title of the movie is Sssss, as in snake. And it was called Snake in the United Kingdom and Japan, and not to be confused with the way Les Nessman and Herb Tarlick would announce, like the snake ads, sail on snakes. This is a 1973 American horror film, get this, starring Strother Martin, Dirk Benedict of Battlestar Galactica and A-Team fame, and the future, or I think it was the current Mrs. Robert Urich, Heather Menzies. It was directed by Bernard L. Kowalski and written by Hal Dresner and Daniel C. Strypig, the later of whom also produced the film. The makeup effects, very underrated, were created by John Chambers and Nick Marcelino. It received a nomination for Best Science Fiction Film Award at the 1975 Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films. Now, in this strange movie, Dr. Carl Stoner, a herpetologist, sells a mysterious creature in a crate to a carnival owner. He later hires college student David Blake, an assistant, claiming that his previous assistant had left town to attend to a sick relative. Unbeknownst to David or anyone else, Stoner is a delusional man. Dr. Stoner begins David on a course of injections, purportedly as a safeguard against being bitten by a snake in his lab. David's skin, however, slowly starts to change and even peel like a snake's skin. He begins to have strange nightmares and goes into a coma while having dinner with Stoner, not waking up until a few days later. He also begins to lose weight, but Stoner tells him those are side effects from the venom. David begins a romance with Stoner's daughter Christina, although her father objects and insists that she not have any sexual relations with him. You can date him, but you can't sleep with him. Now, when David wakes up the next morning, he looks in the mirror and screams in horror. Later, distraught David is in the lab, where Stoner gives him another injection. Meanwhile, Stoner's suspicious colleague, Dr. Daniels, arrives to inspect the property. Stoner attempts to hide David in a corner, but David gets enough strength to walk to the window, allowing Daniels to see that his face has become green and scaly. Before Daniels can react, Stoner knocks him out and feeds him to a python, and David collapses. Christina visits a carnival freak show and then is horrified when she sees a bizarre snake man, who she recognized as Stoner's previous assistant. Distraught, she races back home to save David, who is currently mutating into a King Cobra, brought about by Stoner's injections. Stoner is bitten by a real King Cobra from his lab and dies, just as David's transformation is complete. Christina arrives home and finds her father's body with the real Cobra next to him. Growing suspicious, the police arrive and shoot the Cobra before heading to the lab, where a mongoose is attacking David's neck, attempting to kill him. But the police do not have a clear shot, and as Christina screams David's name, the movie ends abruptly, leaving their fates uncertain, leaving room for a sequel, hopefully. Now, released July 1873 in the heady drive-in days of the 1970s, Universal and the Sonic Brown Company were the production companies for this, so it was backed by big money. There was some talk it was going to be a series of sequels. The budget was $1.03 million. And got $1 million at the box office. Now again, seeing Dirk Benedict and Heather Menzies in the movie before they became heavy TV stars, because Heather Menzies was on the TV remake of Logan's Run. Very good actress. Now, get this: the film's executive producers were Richard Zanuck and David Brown, who went on to produce Jaws. Now, get this: they said in published reports that this gave them inspiration to look at what he called the fear horror, animal fear horror, when I was building in the 70s. Now, the venomous snakes in the film were not defanged during production. 5 king cobras were imported from Thailand for this feature, ranging from 10 to 15 feet in length. They were recently caught in good health in the wild with full venom potency. The snake park milking scenes were real and meant to mimic what Bill Hayes did at his Miami Serpentarium in Florida daily. About 1 ounce of venom was collected during each take with no harm to the snakes. A different cobra was used for each snake take. The filming of this part of the movie took most of a day, as the Cobras spent most of their time trying to escape the fence enclosure rather than rising up into traditional Cobra attack mode. I think they were just trying to get off the movie, because they're saying to themselves, are you getting paid? I'm not getting paid. Are you getting paid? No. Now, Sssss, for some reason, remained unreleased on home video in the United States, even on VHS, until that great year of 97, where MC Universal was issuing a lot of the, what I call the drive-in catalog. It was eventually received VHS releases in Japan and Spain by CIC Video under the titles Snake and Silibia de Morte, which means Killer Snake, of course. Now, the film made its DVD debut on September 7, 2004 via Universal, who had re-released the film 3 additional times in 09, 11, and 14. The 2011 release was part of a 4-film cult horror collection with The Funhouse, Phantasm 2, and The Serpent and the Rainbow. That's a very underrated movie. A DVD was also released in Japan on April 7, 2010. Now, received its first Blu-ray release on April 26, 2016 via Shout Factory, which included new interviews with stars Dirk Benedict and Heather Menzies as bonus features. It also received a Blu-ray release in Australia on the 1st February 2017 via Shocked Entertainment. Now, I remember with the publicity for it was getting a lot of TV promotion. I was doing the drive-in circuit in Eastern Canada. But because everything was hidden from us like the basic plot. It was basically saying there was a supernatural aspect. Now, get this. Howard Thompson of New York Times called the film a surprise. Were it not for the lurid, starkly flapping wind-up, this would be recommended in toto as a gripping, quietly imaginative hair curler. It is the only movie fiction I've ever seen that sustains a scholarly, informative attitude towards the world of snakes. This aspect is fascinating and chilling as a gentle old venom researcher, Strother Martin, putters around with cobras and pythons in a country lab. Now, Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune didn't like it, only gave it 1.5 stars out of 4, writing, even after 40 years of improved film technology, the climactic scene fails to match the drama at the moment when Frankenstein monster sits up on the table. Now, Kevin Thomas of the LA Times called it highly amusing and generally creepy, and praised the spectacular makeup. Now, Keith Alain of the Monthly Film Bulletin wrote that an attractive streak of humor suggests in the early stages that Snake may turn into a macabre little thriller on the lines of The Fly, and lamented that parodies eventually jettisoned in favor of portentous horror. The rather disparate and ludicrous plot is not made any smoother by Bernard L. Kowalski's direction, which manages to be lumberingly predictable. Even in its borrowings now. The freaks-ish sideshow sequences, for example. Now, Leonard Maltin gave the film 3 possible 4 stars, praising the film's exceptional makeup effects. Now, Donald Gorasco from All Movie gave the film a negative review. In his retrospective review, he wrote, fails because it emulates the films that inspired it all too closely. The story moves forward at a laboriously slow pace, and its threadbare plot makes it all too easy for the viewer to pick apart its plot holes and implausible elements. To make matters worse, the characterizations and dialogue never rise above the level of a subpar comic book, and the anticlimactic finale is likely to frustrate even a most patient viewer. Now, on Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 36% based on 11 reviews with an average rating of 4.1 out of 10. Now, at the 3rd Paris International Festival of Fantastic and Science Fiction Films, it won Best Special Effects for John Chambers and Nick Marcelino. Now, here's the question. If the Oscars would have gave out a special effects for 73-74, I think it would have been nominated. And hear me out here. The effects really hold up because it was, for the budget he had, only like $1 million. It's something to see. And one of the true B movies of the 1970s that we still remember and talk about if people of a certain age. Now, if you can find it on video, DVD, or VHS, the poster doesn't give away the movie. But all I know, ladies and gentlemen, to see Dirk Benedict on on Battlestar Galactica and the A-Team, seeing what he went through here. We all got to pay your dues someplace, and he paid his dues in this movie. Very handsome man too, sort of like a young, like a poor man's Harrison Ford a little bit. And a lot of people tend to agree. Why do you think he was brought in for Battlestar Galactica, which was a rip-off of Star Wars? Anyway, for me, ladies and gentlemen, I give 2.5 stars out of 4, and for a second feature at a drive-in, there's enough time to wait for the snake if you want to get, your snake on in your drive-in vehicle, if you know what I'm saying. Get your snake on, go for your hot dog, of course. You got to have time to go for a hot dog. Good time to go for the hot dog waiting for the snake is what I'm saying. So thanks for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Give us a like, comment, subscribe, or share, or super chat. Don't forget, requests are always accepted and highly anticipated. And don't forget, please subscribe. We're trying to get towards 1,500 subscribers, which would be very nice as a nice Easter break. When I first started the channel, I didn't know we were going to get close to 800,000 hits and 1,500 subscribers. It was just started off as a request channel. We thank everybody for listening. And don't forget, we appreciate all requests. Now that I got my new non-Filmora video package together, I'm getting more constant videos out there. Trying to spread it around. Some from the 70s, 80s, 90s, some vintage, some not. But if you can find on video, check it out. I give it my 2 Cobra thumbs up, or heads up. Anyway, thanks for listening. Bye.